In this guitar tutorial, I'm going to show you the first scale that you should learn, and once you've mastered this, you'll be able to tackle many more scales as you progress in your guitar playing. Hi everyone, it's Mike here from Guitar Prep School again, and don't forget to check out my easy lessons for beginners. If you're just starting up playing guitar, there's also a playlist, lots of easy songs for you to learn. And I've got a great chord library as well, that if you get stuck on any chords that you're not sure about, just check out the library and you get the full explanation on how to play chords, and some of them in many different ways of playing the same chord. So check them out. And today I'm going to cover the A major scale, and I'm going to start off by explaining the Do Re Mi scenario. Then I'm going to explain to you about intervals and the gaps between certain notes. Then I'm going to go through playing the scale nice and slow so that you can learn it. And then I'm going to briefly talk about how you should practice the scales and whether you need to keep practicing the scales. So let's jump in and do this. Now I'm sure you're all familiar with the Do Re Mi Fa Sol La Ti Do melody, the tune. Do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do. I'm a terrible singer, but that's basically what it is. Alright? I think most of us probably learned that at a very young age. But that is the scale that we're going to learn. It's the major scale, and we're going to learn it in the key of A to start with. Now, I'm just going to play it through so you get to grips with what I'm talking about. Okay, do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do. That's the A major scale, and it's the A major scale because we're starting off on the note A, the 5th fret. Alright? We can start it off on G, which would make it the G major scale. Do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do. And you can carry on further up. You can go do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do. Alright? But it just changes the key of the scale. Okay? So if we start it in A, like we did before, and we can actually carry on because we've got more strings to play with. So let's go through the notes that we're playing first of all then. So we're starting on the 5th fret of the 6th string there. And then we're going on to the 7th fret of the 6th string. And then we're going on to the 5th string, the 4th fret. Up half a step to the 5th fret. A whole step to the 7th fret. 4th string on the 4th fret. A full step up to the 6th fret. And half a step up to the 7th fret. Okay? And if you want to carry on further up the neck, from there, we're going to move up to the 9th fret. So it's a full step. Then the 3rd string, 6th fret, half a step to the 7th fret, full step to the 9th fret, 2nd string, the 7th fret, up a full step to the 9th fret, and half a step up to the 10th fret. Okay? Alright, you need to keep practicing it until you can do it. So that is the A major scale. Now if we play the chord of A, alright, what notes have we got in the chord of A? We've got the A, we've got the open A, right? And the next notes that we're pressing down there on the 4th string of the 2nd fret there, that's an E note, right? So where is our E on the scale? A, B, C, D, E. Okay? The other note, the next note in the scale is the G string of the 2nd fret of the chord, next note of the chord. Right, well that's an A. Well, we know we've got an A note already. Right, which we've got another A in the scale. That's the 2nd note of A in the scale. Okay? And the next note on the A chord that we're pressing down on is on the B string 2nd fret, which is C sharp. So that note will be in the scale somewhere as well. A, B, there's our C sharp, it's the 3rd note. Right? And then the last notes we play in the chord is the open E. And we've already established where we got an E in the scale. E there. Okay, so all the notes contained in A minor, all the notes contained in A major are in the scale somewhere. Alright, so that's why it's the A major scale. Alright, now the same applies if you did the same scale but you started it on the note of G, a 4 step down, because we're starting off with a G note, then that would be the G major scale. Right? It's exactly the same fingering, but because we're starting off in G, it'll be the G scale. And likewise, all the notes in the G chord would be in that scale. Alright? It tends to begin to make sense the more you sort of experiment with different chords and the scale for those different chords. But just sticking to major chords. Alright? The the A major, B major, C major, D major, E major, F major, G major. We forgot that one. Alright, the 7 major chords. Then the way you play the scale is exactly the same, it's just in a different part of the neck. Alright? So, the B major scale would start on the B note of the 6th string. Alright? But it's exactly the same way that you play it. That's the B major scale. Alright? Exactly the same way. Once you get used to playing it one way, and once you get used to know the intervals between the notes, on which is the right note you need to get to, right? Whether it's 1 step or a 4 step, in between those note changes, once you get to know that, once you get to be able to listen and hear which is the right note that you're playing, right? Then it's the same anywhere you play around the neck. Alright? Now, should you keep practicing scales? Is there any need to keep practicing scales? Well, it's a yes and no answer, really, because you really need to practice them until you know them. But once you know them, why would you need to practice them? Once you can play them over and over and over, without any problem, without making mistakes, without, once you know them like the back of your heart, once you can play them all the time, over and over and over again, and you're not making any mistakes, then you don't need to keep practicing them. You know them, right? A scale is not something that you'll hear in a song. It's not something you'll hear in a solo. You won't hear a full scale in a solo. You'll hear certain notes within a certain scale. You'll never hear a solo or a melody that is actually the tune to do re mi fa sol la ti do, unless it is that song of do re mi fa sol la ti do, right? You won't hear it anywhere else. So you're not going to play a full scale as part of a tune. Hardly likely, right? Because a solo, for example, is made up of notes within that scale. Because the idea of a solo is that you mix one scale up with another scale to make it a bit more interesting. You want a bit of bluesy touch to it, or you want to, you got some minor chords that are mixed up with major chords. Then you can mix up you can mix up the soloing using two or three different scales, and you can create a decent solo from it. So the idea of practicing scales, once you know them, I would say you don't need to keep practicing them. Just don't forget them. Okay, so don't forget that major scale, do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do. We've mentioned the intervals in between notes, which is the gap between notes, if there's a gap or if there's no gap, which means if there's one step or two steps between the notes. Try to get your ears trained to be able to tell. All right, because some scales have got three notes in between, a step and a half in between the sound of the note. All right, so you need to get your ears to be trained to be able to tell the difference between those two notes, those two notes, and those two notes, as an example. All right, and to be able to hear those intervals and have an idea of whether they're a full step or a step and a half or just a half a step. All right, that's what you've got to get your ears trained to be able to recognize. So good luck with learning that scale. So I think I've covered everything I needed to cover. If you've got any questions or any comments, please leave a comment below, and I'll be happy to answer your comments. And don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button. You'll see it in the corner of the screen there. And if you need any help with finding where notes are on your fretboard, check out the video, Easy Fretboard for Beginners. I go through all the notes of the fretboard with you, and I show you an easy way of how you can remember where notes are on the fretboard there. And if you haven't had my free guide yet, if you're just starting out on the guitar, if you haven't had my free guide, feel free to download that as well. Lots of good little hints and tips there on how to start without forming any bad habits, and some good beginner tips there. And I'll see you all again next time. All the best.